Hey, what's up? My name is Eric Leo 108, and I'm a sociologist, philosopher, and hip hop artist with schizoaffective disorder. Um, so this is gonna be sociological. This is gonna be a response. I've been doing one of these every week where I respond to Bill Maher's real time. I'm a fan of Bill Maher. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna watch the video part of it. This will be on my YouTube. The live will be on my YouTube, so it will have the outline I'm going to go through, and it will have the links to the stuff I'm going to talk about. And this is called New Rule Republican Idiocracy. Basically, I'm going to play the video a little bit, and then I'll respond.
And finally, New Rule, someone must explain Herschel Walker. And how in a supposedly sophisticated country, a person with his resume could ever be elected to office. Although the answer might be a little more complicated than you think. For the past month, there's been a lot written about how Republicans standing behind a guy like Walker means they've lost all sense of integrity. Really? Just now?
So this, just to give a little nuance, this reminds me of Hillary's comments about the basket of deplorables, and it's a little bit more nuanced today when we have Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert, and then we have Herschel Walker.
Integrity died a long time ago after a long battle with tribalism. Integrity is survived by hypocrisy and fear of the other party. Now, of course, I could make a long string of jokes about how unfit for office Walker is, and I think I will. Because if you haven't...
So you can watch that on the video of Bill Maher's. He basically goes through everything that Herschel Walker has done and why he's not fit for office. Basically, he's for...
Have I seen this man before? You have. President Dwayne Elizondo Mountain Dew Camacho.
He's pro-life, but he has like 4 kids by 4 different women, and one of the women has said that he paid for an abortion for her.
From the movie... Idiocracy. So, why do Republicans stand by him? Now, the easy answer is they're deplorables, ignorant and bad, and yes, there is some of that.
Yeah, so that comes back to Hillary's comments about basket of deplorables. Like, okay, so basically my argument is going to be, if they're not, like, they're basically, I don't think the Republicans can make a rational argument, so they act like children and resort to faith. And then that's the pillar that they stand behind. And they basically throw a tantrum to get what they want, and they're mad at Democrats for being inclusionary, even to a fault. But the Democrats are mad at the Republicans for them trying to hijack the economic and political system.
But I'm sorry, if I'm going to stay in America, and America is going to stay America, I can't write off half the country that easily. Also, I talk to deplorables. So let me try to translate. Not endorse, but translate for liberal America. Part of the appeal of a Herschel Walker or a Donald Trump or any number of egregious assholes Republicans have backed is, in their mind, the worse a candidate is, the more it says to Democrats, do you see how much we don't like what you're selling?
So it's like the Wild West where anything goes. And I'm basically going to throw a tantrum because I can't get my way, and what I think you're doing is so unhinged. And what I want to focus on is it's about priorities, and we'll get there.
All that socialism and identity politics?
Well, America doesn't even know what socialism is. Socialism is workers' rights over production, not giving poor people money, which is what they think it is. So they're fundamentally wrong with what they're asserting. So basically, I'll talk. basically one side thinks you're evil, so the Republicans think the Democrats are evil and need Jesus. This is what it's like, and on the other side, the Republicans think the Democrats are holistically ignorant, if not maliciously trying to dismantle American government and politics.
And victimhood, and oversensitivity, and cancel culture, and white self-loathing, and forcing complicated ideas about race and sex on kids too young to understand it. Literally anything would be.
So we're going to talk about this lady with the big breasts, and they're about like this big. They're like down here. We'll get to it. If he's teaching younger kids, they shouldn't. Basically, we're prioritizing. I mean, Republicans want to prioritize firing a teacher with huge knockers over regulating gun laws, which is a way more bigger problem.
Better than that. That's their view. That's why you can be a really bad dude in Republican politics, and it's not a deal breaker. Judge Roy Moore was.
So what I think we're dealing with here is people that don't grow up. Like, you can get older, but you don't grow up. You don't see the benefit of having dignity in your party. And it seems like the Republicans have lost that. This is new Republicans. I'm going to go over it at the end here. I got a long notes that I'm going to go through. But I talk about Dwight D. Eisenhower. I'll talk about some of his quotes and how he doesn't really... he was supportive of the Social Security system and not for the military-industrial complex. And that's completely switched. Republicans are all for war. I shouldn't say war. They're for military contracts, and about 150 House Republicans want to have come out and said they want to shrink Social Security.
In his 30s, when he was still going to the mall and picking up teenage girls. Eric Greitens was Missouri governor. Then this year, a Senate candidate, despite the fact that his ex-wife says he beat her and the kids. And he was charged with tying up a woman he was having an affair with, taking nude pictures, and threatening to blackmail her with them. I mean, Andrew Cuomo was creepy, but there was no begging to be untied.
I mean, Deplorables. It has a lot of nuance.
Al Franken took a gag picture, but he didn't go Phil Spector on anybody. This is a clear difference between the parties. Democrats also think the other side is an existential threat, but their response is not to nominate sickos to make a point. If it was, they have a guy who'd fit the bill.
Anthony Weiner. I mean, Anthony Weiner's out of the question, but if he was Republican, he wouldn't be, considering Herschel Walker.
But they don't nominate him, because that would just be trolling. Here's a question. Is this person trolling?
You'll have to watch the video, but this is the lady with the huge knockers.
This is a transgender teacher in Ontario who made news last month when the school supported her right to come to school and teach children with these tits.
Basically, I can see it now. Parents are upset they don't want to have to explain this to their children. They don't want to and they don't know about... They find it offensive, basically. Instead of telling them just to ignore it, they don't want to answer the questions. I can just see it.
Her name is Kayla Lemieux, and I'm not so sure she isn't doing this to make a statement that anyone can do absolutely anything in the name of wokeness, and the left will never stop them. And that's when Republicans say, well, then we'll have to, no matter who we have to elect to do it.
Like children.
The fact that Republicans have no shame in their game and will
like
vote
children.
for any monster with an R by his name is their way of signaling how serious they are about blocking this shit. They're like the bad guy in action movies who shoots one of his own men. And then he's like, I liked him, but I had to make a point.
Okay. So, like I said, I don't think Republicans can make a rational argument, so they act like children and resort to faith. It's about priorities. Republicans are banning books but not guns, and they think the bigger issue is a teacher with huge knockers that their students can just ignore, opposed to a situation where we have mental health problems and access to guns. Just like with healthcare, most people want stricter gun laws. It's like 80% of people want healthcare, universal healthcare, and stricter gun laws. I say it's just a 50-50 split of the Senate that is holding us hostage. Basically, there's half the Senate that doesn't want healthcare or stricter gun laws, but that doesn't represent the people. That doesn't even represent Republicans. Most people want those things, and we are being held hostage by Republicans. They don't want it. Not because they, and it's not because they represent the people, it's because they don't represent the people. One side thinks, I already talked about this, one side thinks you're evil and the other side thinks you're ignorant. So basically, Republicans are more religious. They adhere to Christianity mostly. It's like a Christian neo-fascist nation for the Republicans, and they think like what the Democrats do is like by being inclusionary is evil, and the Democrats think what the Republicans do is basically ignorant. They're basically saying, we don't believe in your imaginary friend. You take all your orders from them and preachers, and you make decisions off of this like in that way. So that's the conflict. A lot of what I consider to be real Republicans don't support Trump or Herschel Walker. I've never thought I'd have to say this back in the day, but I support Mitt Romney. At least he has some integrity and is trying to help the average American by introducing a child tax credit. If you don't know, he tried to include a child tax credit. So in other European countries, women get paid to have babies, and I think we should do it here. It would stimulate the economy and help average families that are struggling and can't afford to survive. I never thought I'd support Liz Cheney, but at least their arguments are based in fact. Okay, so I have two songs, one called Our Money from the E-Money Weaponry album. I left a link in the description. Our money, the joke's not funny. You represent the 1% protecting their money. That's all I can remember from it right now. Basically, it was I wrote it opposing Mitt Romney when he ran against Barack Obama. Basically, he couldn't stop lying, and I didn't like that he stood for the 1%, so I voted against him. And then the death of war, but I support his initiative to give a child tax credit, and I applaud him for that. The death of war, let's see, is a song about the military-industrial complex adjusting your synapse gaps like you be on Xanax. And I metaphorically killed Dick Cheney. Give as a stab in the back. I can't remember it. It's been so long. It's like 10 years old. But I left a link to it in the YouTube description. The Republican Party has been taken over by MAGA, which doesn't recognize reality like Biden won the election or global warming exists or that we need gun control to end school shootings. I think Trevor Noah said it's like we're arguing over a parking space. I saw him on the video and he's like, one side is like, this is my parking space, and the other side is like, no, that's my parking space. But now we have one party that's like, what parking space? So I did a poll on Twitter. I'll have this linked. I'll have the poll on my Twitter linked. I asked, are people more compelled to reason and knowledge or more wired to conform to popular ignorance? I got 16 votes and 93.8% said they conform to ignorance. And this is kind of like what it is. Most people in America, because of the education system is deteriorating, are not educated and ignorant and accustomed to propaganda and things like Fox News that think for them. So, and then they get basically, it's a disinformation campaign by the news, and they don't know any better. They don't have any facts, or they don't know how to think. So they end up voting against their own self-interest. So basically, I think they're right. Most people are uneducated and ignorant, and their only news comes with a crony way of thinking like Fox News. I'd fair to say most conservatives are voting against their own economic interests. So basically, does who is correct matter? Because if it doesn't matter, by all means vote Republican. But if you actually want to use rational argument and evidence, you'll see conservatives are mad at liberals for being inclusionary, while liberals are mad at Republicans for trying to dismantle the economic and political system. That's since Reagan. I would have liked the Republican Party if it was the 50s. And here's some quotes by Dwight D. Eisenhower to show how far Republicans have strayed. So this Eisenhower was back in his the Social Security quote I'll read you is from 1954, but he said every gun that is made, every warship launched, every rocket fired signifies in the final sense of theft from those who hunger and are not fed, those who are cold and are not clothed. Basically, he said in his farewell address, every dollar that we spend on a bomb is money that we take away from schools or a hospital. And this is what I say, it's about priorities. We have the money for universal health care, or to make college free, or to provide affordable housing, but we don't. We spend it on the military and our empire. I say this all the time, it's about priorities, and the Republicans represent giving more money to war and the wealthy. This is another quote by Dwight D. Eisenhower. Should any political party attempt to abolish Social Security, unemployment insurance, and eliminate labor laws and farm programs, you would not hear from that party again in our political history. There is a tiny splinter group, of course, that believes you can do these things. Among them are Texas oil millionaires and an occasional politician or businessman, and they are stupid. So basically, the Republican Party is going against their own, basically they're not, what I'm arguing is they're not conservatives anymore, they're neoconservatives, and they're regressive. I'm here to tell you by Texas oil millionaires and occasional politician or businessman and they are stupid. I'm here to tell you they've been sophistically corroborating to create an oligarchy, transfer wealth to them, and minimize the average citizen's political power. The economic movement for equality is probably what killed people like Martin Luther King and JFK. And I have linked a sound clip from JFK from my album Evolution. Republicans today are what they call neoconservatives. And this is what I'm saying the Republicans are now regressive. They represent dismantling democracy and oppressing women's rights, and they represent racism. So it's almost like the Republicans are the trolls, but they're not making you contemplate their sexuality, but rather making you live in fear of things like guns and immigrants and books. And it's about priorities. What's more of a problem, school shootings or the teacher with big tits? For the Republicans, it's the teacher with big tits. It seems like Republicans' whole platform is to distract from reality, because if you look at it, look at their policy and the way they have voted, the average American wouldn't support them. Basically, if the average American had the wherewithal and information, they wouldn't support the Republicans. But a lot of them are ignorant, and a lot of them, they represent wealth. So if you're wealthy, I can see why. And that disseminates in propaganda throughout America. So that sentiment, a wealthy sentiment, is adhered to by those that aren't wealthy. That's why Republicans do well. And that, and they gerrymander and yes, do things like stack the courts and do power grabs. I would support the Republicans if they actually said some real shit, supported universal health care like most Americans, and wanted safer gun laws like most Americans, and thought global warming was a problem to be acted on, but they don't. You would think conservatives would want to conserve the environment, and they used to. Nixon started the EPA, and now it's conservatives who want to dismantle it. Because it gets in the way of the fossil fuel lobby. Like I said, the oligarchy, people, wealthy interests have taken over, and they have reduced your economic vitality and minimized your political influence of the average person. Meanwhile, Republicans are mad at liberals and think they're evil for thinking there's more than two genders. Basically, one, your kids are literally going to be affected by forever. And I'm talking about global warming, and the other huge tits they can just ignore. I support Democrats because if we focus on policy and not your uneducated opinion, you'll see that Republicans vote in the favor of the oligarchy and white nationalism, while Democrats vote for the middle class and democracy. Okay. I'm reading the comments. That's about it. So I'm this says it's like 90% of people's personality revolve around political views, bro. No one cares. It's democracy. You have to be involved. Like, that's the whole point. If you're not involved, you're not being a good citizen. Yeah, and I'm a sociologist, and I do have music that I release every week that I don't talk about politics, but this is specifically supposed to be me talking about. I'm talking about economics, but you can influence the economic system through politics, and that's what's been happening. The oligarchy has taken over through economic means and political means, through political means, and yeah, it needs to be talked about. Otherwise, it just goes unchecked, and you have a serious wealth transfer and dismantling of rights. Tribalist, and this is a no-name person. So, anyways, I think I'm gonna end it there. I said all I wanted to say. I might make a blog post about this in my last one. We'll see. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of my family. You're awesome. I love you very much. And until next time, you take care, all right? See ya.